Hey, welcome to So Awkward. It's me, Don. So today I'm going to do something I've never done before on the show. I'm going to review and talk about a WWE pay-per-view. Specifically, Wrestlemania 32.
You're watching So Awkward. This is Freddy Krueger saying hi.
I'm a big wrestling fan. I grew up as a wrestling fan. I enjoy watching the pay-per-views. I don't have cable, so I don't really follow it religiously. But I try to watch the pay-per-views every month on the network. But I've never really talked about it on the show in detail. First of all, because I'm a 38-year-old man, and it seems a little embarrassing. And second of all, because I don't really think there's much to review. I'm not one of these smarks, or whatever they call themselves, who analyze and try to predict what's going to happen and talk about the writing and this is what should have happened, which is to say, because these people seem to hate wrestling and all they do is complain about it. And I don't really have that many complaints. But, you know, I watched WrestleMania last night, and I've read some of the comments and reviews from the supposed fans, and they're just so negative. So I thought I would throw up my own thoughts just because I had a lot of fun, and I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't the best WrestleMania of all time, but I thought it was still really fun and pretty great. I liked it. Anyway, let's get right into it. The first match of the night in the pre-show, which I don't really understand why they have a pre-show. If you fight at 6:30 at night, you're on the pre-show. If you fight at 7 at night, you're on WrestleMania. Anyway, the first match was for the United States Championship, and it was Kalisto, the champion, versus Ryback. I thought this was a lot of fun. People seem to hate Ryback and complain about him all the time. I actually really like Ryback. I think he's a lot of fun. I think he's like an old school 80s monster. And I always enjoy watching him in the ring. He doesn't do that much, but watching him beat people up is a lot of fun. And they're kind of turning him more of a heel lately, which I think he should be. I think he's really good at it. And I like this match. Kalisto's, that Mexican luchador style. He's Rey Mysterio light. This was a fun match. I was rooting for Ryback to win, but I was happy with the result because I like both of these guys, and I thought they put on a really good show that should have been part of the main event because I thought it was really solid and a lot of fun. Then we had the Team Total Divas versus Team Bad and Blonde. I was dog sitting over the weekend, so this was the point where I had to feed the dogs. So I caught like the last half of the match. It was fine. It felt a little bit like, they have the triple threat ladies match later on, and this was just every other diva. So it was too many people, and I didn't really follow it, and it was fine. It was fine. Then we had the Usos versus the Dudley Boys. It was fine. It is what it is. I think the Usos won. Like, I don't remember. I wasn't really paying attention that much. It's still the pre-show. It still feels like the pre-show at this point. And then WrestleMania starts for real, and it opens with the Intercontinental ladder match. I think it was like 7 or 8 guys in there, and this was awesome. This is one of the best ladder matches I've seen in years, at least. Last year it started, I think, the same way with the Intercontinental ladder match, and I thought that one was kind of boring and felt like ladder matches, especially group ladder matches, tend to feel so scripted, more so than like solo matches, just because they're so over choreographed with the ladder, as well they should be, because it's a dangerous match for everybody involved, so they have to be pretty well planned out. But ladder matches tend to just feel like spot, set up, spot, set up, spot. But this one actually felt really organic, and that's a credit to all the people who were involved in it, booking, and especially the wrestlers. I thought it was great. Everybody had their little moment, and everybody really shined, and it felt like anybody could win at any time. The real stars were Sami Zayn, who I'm not an NXT guy, so I don't know much about him, and Kevin Owens, who both, like, I guess they have some kind of feud going. At one point, my favorite part was the ladder was by the ropes, and Sami Zayn jumped through the ladder onto the people on the floor outside of the ring, and it was so beautiful and so graceful. It was like watching like an Olympic diver. I was really impressed. I didn't really know what to expect from Sami Zayn. I've seen some of his stuff. I saw the Dallas Takeover or whatever it was. He's the real deal. He was awesome. But of course, the winner was Zack Ryder, which I don't think anybody could have predicted that. And he hasn't had really the trajectory of his career that he deserves. And it was nice to see them finally give Zack Ryder some kind of push and recognition. And I think hopefully he won't lose it tonight. It's Monday. We'll see. Hopefully he'll keep it for like a little while. Give him something to do, because I think he is a really good wrestler and he's a lot of fun. I like him. Anyway, this was a great match. One of the best of the night. My pick for the best of the night was probably the next match, which was Chris Jericho versus AJ Styles. And like, I wasn't really looking forward to this, even though I like both of them a lot. Chris Jericho, of course, has been around for years, decades at this point. I don't even know how long, but he's an icon, one of the top 25 greatest wrestlers of all time. I would put him on my list. AJ Styles is also new to me because I'm a WWE guy, and I'm an adult with a job and a life, sort of. So I can't watch all of these different wrestling promotions. So I watched WWE, but people made a big deal when he came into the Rumble, and he was really awesome. And since then, he's pretty much only been working with Chris Jericho, which is fine because every match they've had has been great. But I'll admit I was a little... They've had so many fights over the past month or so that I kind of lost interest, which is maybe why this match blew me away. I thought it was, like I said, the best match of the night. It was the most exciting. They just put on, I guess you say it, they put on a clinic, as people say. Really good wrestling. Really athletic. Really good storytelling. I never knew what was going to happen. They had me on the edge of my seat. So many near pinfalls, reversals. It just, I was gripped. It's one of those things where you forget you're watching something fake and pre-scripted, and you're just watching two guys telling you this amazing story with wrestling as their vocabulary or something. I don't know if that made any sense. A lot of people seem to complain online. I haven't talked to it. I don't know anybody who likes wrestling. So I look online and on Reddit or YouTube or whatever people do. People complained about how Jericho won. I don't get hung up on who wins and who loses. I enjoy the matches. And yeah, I was expecting and rooting for AJ Styles, but I'm happy with Jericho won. And the way they told the story in the match, I don't know how anybody can complain about the ending because they set it up perfectly. And I mean, Jericho won. I bought into it. Match of the night for me. I loved it. And then we had the weird tag team match, the champions New Day, who weren't defending the title because it was some kind of three-way match, versus the League of Nations, who have 4 members. So Barrett didn't wrestle. I think it was Barrett who didn't wrestle. Once they said it wasn't for the title, I knew New Day was going to lose, because that's what they do. If they fight on SmackDown and it's not for the title, they lose. And when they fight for the title, they win. Over the course of the past year, that I guess that they've had the title. I love New Day. They're the funniest and most charismatic guys out there, but I am getting a little bored of them. Kofi is an amazing athlete, and I really like Big E. Like, he's a solid wrestler, and he's fun to watch. Really strong, powerful guy. But I don't know. I don't know. I love the League of Nations. I mean, it's Rusev, Alberto Del Rio, Bad News Barrett, and Sheamus, all great wrestlers, great heels. They're a lot of fun. When they form this faction, it gives them more time, and their interplay with each other is really fun. So I do like them. I don't think they need the titles either. I don't know who they'd give the titles to. They need to to bring in some more tag teams to really freshen up the tag team division. New Day, their entrance was, they popped out of a giant, like 40-foot tall cereal box of Booty-O's, which I guess is some running gag, and it was super funny and a lot of and clever and unexpected and irreverent, which I think is really the New Day's thing. They're super funny, but this match was fine. It was fine. It was really good wrestlers having a really good match, but I didn't necessarily care. But at the end of the match, League of Nations won, obviously. Didn't get the title. So then the League of Nations like threw everybody out of the ring, and they did this promo about how they're the toughest and the baddest around. But then, and I don't remember in what order it was. I think Shawn Michaels came out first. And then Mankind came out, Mick Foley. And then, of course, the glass breaks and Stone Cold Steve Austin came out. And, of course, it's great. 3 of the icons of wrestling. Great fun. They did their signature moves on all the League of Nations characters. Mick Foley even, pulled out Mr. Sacco on Sheamus. It was a classic Wrestlemania moment. Great fun seeing these icons back in the ring. I'll admit that if we're going to see Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels, and even Mick Foley back in the ring, it would have been nice to see them with something a little more substantial. At one point, Shawn Michaels pops his shirt off, and he looks amazing. He could get back in the ring tomorrow and have another run. He looks better than most of the guys currently on the card, and he looks better than he did in his retirement match, whenever that was, 10 years ago. 7 years ago? 7 years ago? WrestleMania, was it 25? Was that 25 or 26? Anyway, it was about 6 or 7 years ago. He looks amazing. It was great seeing him do the sweet chin music again, but I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to complain about seeing these 3 back in the ring wrestling again. Drinking beer, swigging beer. A little weird, he gave Shawn Michaels a beer, and Michaels was, downing the beer. Didn't Michaels have some kind of drug and alcohol problem? And that's, anyway, whatever. I don't know. Maybe they gave him an O'Doul's or something. It's the kind of moment that you could critique and nitpick and say, oh, I wish they had done this a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, you're watching Shawn Michaels back in the ring. So who cares? There's no complaints about that. It's you're a little kid again. I just wish they had brought back Marty Jannetty. Then we had one of the most hyped matches, at least for me, the street fight, no holds barred street fight, Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose. These are 2 of the greatest wrestlers working today. I love them both. They're always fun, but this match kind of sucked. This was the weakest match. It was really short. It wasn't much of a street fight. Brock, who's known for being the beast who just destroys people, and Ambrose for being this resilient, stubborn guy who can take a beating and he'll always come back. And it wasn't like that at all. It was boring. It was boring. I'm not saying they had to have blood pouring off the people. I'm not a huge fan of blood, but it could have been a little more exciting. It was boring. It was anticlimactic, and it wasn't the match that they were selling leading up to it. And next was the triple threat match for the Divas Championship with Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks. This was another hyped match that everybody knew was going to steal the night, and it did. It was great. But even before the match, Lita came out and announced that they were getting rid of the Divas title, and they were going to just be calling it, I think, the women's division or something. They're getting rid of the word diva, and they're just being called women, which is great. And they have a new belt. They got rid of that ugly vaginal butterfly belt. It's really cool looking, and it looks great. And it's a really good step forward for the women's division. And they couldn't have picked a better trio of ladies to introduce this new title. It was great. All 3 of them put on a great show. I was rooting for Becky, but I expected Sasha to win. So when Charlotte won, I'm not going to say I was disappointed, because they definitely built Charlotte up as kind of the Brock Lesnar of the women's division. She's not quite that unbeatable, but she's a big, tough, strong, athletic powerhouse. But considering the fact that they're getting rid of the Divas title, they're inaugurating the women's division, women, girl power, equality now, but Charlotte still won because her father, Ric Flair, interfered. So that was lame. At this point, Charlotte has won every major match because Ric Flair cheated and helped her. Why is he not being barred from the building at this point? It's just, from a storytelling point of view, it doesn't make any sense that he would still be allowed to do that. The point of view of women's lib or whatever, that they're inaugurating this new division and getting rid of divas and trying to put women on the same level as the male athletes, having this old man interfere just felt disingenuous and kind of sexist. But the match was so good, and the trio of women were so amazing that it's still the second best match of the night. Some people might even say it was the best match of the night. I don't know. It was great. The finish almost ruined it, but they were so good that nothing could have really ruined it, because the story they told and the build up to it was phenomenal. But I wanted Becky to win. Hell in a Cell, The Undertaker versus Shane McMahon. This was another one I was really looking forward to, even though I was skeptical. Undertaker is like 50. Shane McMahon is pushing 50, and he hasn't wrestled in like 7-8 years. I have no idea, longer, 10 years. I don't remember the last time Shane McMahon was in a match. But it was awesome. The stipulation was, if The Undertaker loses, he has to retire. They didn't say from wrestling, but they said from Wrestlemania. And which is pretty much all he does anyway. And if Shane won, he would get control of Monday Night Raw. Like, he would take over the programming, or what, I'm not even sure in kayfabe terms what that means. So, it was such a weird gimmick that I think a lot of people, myself included, thought that Shane would have to win, just because why would you bring up this convoluted gimmick where they were going to change Monday Night Raw forever under the supervision and production of Shane McMahon just to not have it happen. But it didn't happen. But that's fine, because the match was great. It was a lot of fun. It was brutal. Way more brutal than the street fight, which wasn't even brutal at all. Of course, the spot of the night, maybe of the year, was at the end when Shane climbed to the top of the Hell in the Cell, which they kept saying was 20 feet in the air. It looked even higher than that. And then he jumped off to drop the elbow on the Undertaker. The Undertaker moved, so he just smashed into the table. It was ridiculous. I don't know how Shane didn't die. One of the craziest spots in wrestling history. It was great. It was great. It was great fun. Shane, I hope he sticks around. I hope this wasn't a one and done deal just because there have been so many injuries on the card that they had to bring in him. I hope something happens tonight on Raw where he sticks around and he gets some kind of on-screen presence, because he's still got it. And him and The Undertaker, it was great. The Undertaker shows no sign that he's going to retire anytime soon. He looked great. Good stuff. And then we had the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal with a bunch of wrestlers and surprise guest Shaquille O'Neal. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. This was, Battle Royals are okay. The winner was somebody, I think, from NXT. Hold on. Baron Corbin, who I have no idea who that is. I don't watch too much NXT. I've seen a couple pay-per-views, that's about it. But he looked neat, and the crowd went nuts when he won, so there's that. I guess he's well-liked. I really don't have much to say about this one. It was fine. It was fine, but forgettable. And it was won by a guy I've never heard of before. But more power to him. And then The Rock came out for a really weird promo First he came out and then he's like, oh wait, I'll be right back, and everybody's cheering, and he comes back with this giant gun that I thought he was going to shoot t-shirts into the crowd. And I thought to myself, that's weird. It seems cheesy. But then it turned out it was a flamethrower. And so The Rock is shooting flames into the air, and then he goes to this sign that says The Rock, and he lights it on fire, so it's The Rock is in flames. And then he goes to the ring, and he talks about how the AT&T Stadium or whatever hit the indoor attendance record, either for that venue or for Wrestlemania. I didn't quite catch what it was, but it was 101,000 people or something, which is really impressive. Then it got kind of weird where the lights went down, and then Bray Wyatt and I guess Eric Rowan and Braun Strowman or whatever his name was come out, and they did this promo where Bray said he does what he does, where he talks about how he's gonna kill The Rock. And then it got weird. So they had kind of a back and forth, which was strange. I mean, The Rock's super funny, and Bray Wyatt he's a great talker. He's really intimidating, and he's got this scary character, or he's supposed to be scary anyway. But him and The Rock are on two different worlds. They don't mesh. Like, The Rock's style does not mesh with Bray Wyatt's style, so it felt really weird. And you could tell that Bray Wyatt just seemed out of place. I mean, anybody going up in a battle of the wits versus The Rock is going to lose. But their style is they didn't mesh. They didn't really have that much charisma. Then The Rock said, "Hey, let's have a match." So they rang the bell, and The Rock had a match with Eric Rowan, where he gave him a rock bottom, then pinned him in 6 seconds, which was, I mean, it was when the crowd went crazy when he said they were going to have a match. Like, we thought it was going to be a real match, but then it turned out just to be a joke. Like, it was a joke. And Eric Rowan and even Bray Wyatt are too good to be used as jokes. So I thought that was kind of lame. But seeing The Rock back in his tights, doing the people's elbow, a rock bottom, that was great. I just wish he had beaten up somebody else. Somebody who I don't really respect as a performer and would love to see more of. Who should be a legit threat. Oh, and then John Cena came out, which was great, because he's been away for like all year with some kind of shoulder injury. And he came out because the Wyatts were all going to beat up Rock, and he helped beat up all the Wyatts. He did the 5-knuckle shuffle on one of them. I don't remember who. The Rock did the people's elbow on one of them. I don't remember who. And then, then they went out, and it felt like filler. But, I mean, seeing The Rock back in the ring, actually wrestling, and seeing John Cena come back and doing the attitude adjustment, it's great. That was great. Again, I wish they'd been used and spotlighted differently, but I'm not going to complain about John Cena being back. And then there's the main event, which features the very controversial Roman Reigns versus the equally controversial Triple H for the WWE title. I'm a Roman Reigns fan. Maybe I should have said that right from the beginning. I don't think he's the best wrestler ever. I don't even think he's a great wrestler. But I'm a fan. I think he's got charisma. I think he's always fun to see in the ring. People complain about him all the time, but I've never really seen him have a bad match. I've seen him do some bad promos. But in the ring, especially in the main event at a major pay-per-view, I think he always delivers. And I thought this was a really solid main event. It's not going to go down in history as one of the all-time great WrestleMania main events, but it's not going to go down in history as one of the worst either, at least not by me. He does get a lot of boos. He gets a lot of cheers too, but then people online only focus on the boos. They say everybody was booing him. Well, no, everybody wasn't booing him. You can see thousands of people on their feet cheering him. He's after John Cena, I believe he sells the most merchandise of anybody in the company. So obviously, a lot of people out there love the guy. It's not just me. It's not just little kids and women, although it's mostly little kids and women. It's hard to separate Roman Reigns from the angry fans, who I don't even really consider fans, because if they weren't complaining about Roman Reigns, they'd be complaining about somebody else. But I'm not going to say he's the best of all time, I'm not even going to say he's the best on the card currently. And I certainly don't love what the writing team has done with him all the time. Royal Rumble sucked. But I thought this was a really solid match from start to finish. I think Roman Reigns and Triple H have really good chemistry. Triple H is another icon. I just thought it was a fun, solid match, and I'm happy that Roman Reigns is the champion. I might be the only one out there, at least on the internet, who's saying they're happy and we're rooting for Roman Reigns to get the title. I think he's the champion, and I really like the guy, and I'd like them to drop this whole authority storyline. I'll admit that. I think the real feud should be with Triple H and Shane over control of WWE. I think that would be a way more interesting and logical storyline. But Triple H and Roman Reigns in a match together at WrestleMania, I thought it was really good. I liked it a lot. Triple H's entrances are always so weird, and I don't know if I really like them, but this one upped the weirdness. Like, it's all these people with like their mouths bolted, like zombies with their mouths bolted shut, and then Stephanie McMahon came out like looking like Cher, giving this really weird speech about the apocalypse, or I have no idea, but I loved it. I'm a Stephanie McMahon mark. I think she's amazing. I think she can do everything. She can wrestle, she can talk, and I think she's so pretty. I have such a crush on her. And then at the end she handed Triple H his stupid sledgehammer, which, if you're gonna have you can't have somebody who with a sledgehammer, like that's his gimmick, and he never actually hits anybody with the sledgehammer. He always is holding it like this, and you can't have a sledgehammer if you're not actually going to use a sledgehammer. I've never really seen him use a sledgehammer. It's dumb. Like Shawn Michaels, Triple H looks better than he ever has. He looks better than he has in decades. He looks amazing. He didn't need the sledgehammer. But then it ended, so it was weird. I don't really remember. Roman went to spear Triple H, but he hit Stephanie, which was great. The crowd had a really good reaction to that. And then, of course, he wins, and he's the new champion. I mean, sure, I was expecting a little bit more from the storyline-wise. Like, it's WrestleMania. It's supposed to be the culmination of all these storylines, and a lot of them. This one, it didn't necessarily feel like it was over. Like, you can tell they're going to continue this authority storyline, which I think is lame. I think when people are booing Roman Reigns, they're booing the storyline. And I can get behind that because the storyline isn't that good. But as a pure wrestler and athlete, I really like watching Roman Reigns. I think he's great. And I'm happy to see him as champion. I hope they give him more to do. Because I think he has so much potential that's being unrealized. And I hate seeing him get booed. But anyway, that's WrestleMania 32. I had a lot of fun. I really liked it. It was a spectacle, as WrestleMania should be. The arena looked great. It was great seeing all of these icons again. I give it a thumbs up. I say check it out if you're a fan. I had fun. I don't know what everybody's complaining about. I don't think there was really a bad match. The street fight was disappointing just because going into it had so much potential and such a build. It was two of the greatest wrestlers around. But even Lesnar and Dean Ambrose having a mad match is still worth watching. So yeah, WrestleMania 32. It's crazy. Can't wait for next year. They were supposed to come to Minneapolis, but now they're going to Orlando, which is lame. Not that I would have gone because it's really expensive and I hate crowds and I don't want to be in some auditorium for 5 hours. That sounds terrible. But it would have been exciting to see them in Minneapolis anyway. Maybe 2018. I don't know. We'll see. Bye, everybody.